Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. We have a great show. We also have a special show. We have a special guest, and we'll let Smokin' Jim introduce his special guest. Come all the way from downtown Pittsburgh today, but we have the Prophet, Chip Hayner, Smokin' Jim Frazier, and the special guest, Smokin' Jim, is Heather
Tate, the beautiful Miss Heather Tate. I tell you what, we do boxing commentary together. She's an outstanding lady, and I tell you what, I must admit, I'm gonna have a hard time keeping my hands to myself.
All right, let's change seats right now. Enough of that. What's on your mind, Heather, besides Smokin' Jim?
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here. Can't wait to let you guys know what I've been doing for the past few weeks.
Okay. Any sports things on your mind or anything?
Yeah, I want the Steelers to get better.
All right.
They're not playing too well these days.
How do you really feel about them, Heather?
Thank you, Miss Heather.
That's how I really feel.
All right, we'll go to that later. All right, Smokin' Jim Frazier, what is on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. I tell you what, what's on my mind is a couple things. I got to go back a couple of weeks. Couldn't be more proud of the man sitting to my immediate right, Chip Hayner. He came on to the #1 sports television show in the city of Pittsburgh, Steel City Sports World, and he hit a home run. We had along with Chip, they had a guest who was a baseball league scout and knows everything there is about baseball. Very controversial guy, and all he could say all show was, I agree with Chip, I agree with Chip. It was so funny, man. It was a great time, so great job, Chip.
Thanks, Jim.
And the guy that pulled everybody together, that produces the show, Al Levine, the talking machine, I just found out he's been nominated to receive an award. It has to be voted on, but he's been nominated received the award at the second biggest banquet in the state of Pennsylvania, next to the Dapper Dan banquet, which is the Willie Stargell MVP banquet coming up in December. So hopefully he'll be an honoree there. So congratulations, Al.
Whoa.
But what's on my mind is, I tell you what, I think we got a Hall of Fame nose guard in Pittsburgh, because I tell you what, you only get a 2-game suspension after everything you do. You must be the next Ernie Holmes. Ernie Holmes shot at police helicopters and still was able to play in 3 Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I tell you what, the last time we had a Samoan nose tackle was Gabe Rivera, senior sack. The Steelers drafted him before Dan Marino in '83. He ended up getting drunk, speeding, paralyzed himself in a car accident. I feared that almost would happen to Alamila. I tell you what, over on the south side, this is a young man. I tell you what, he's a great character guy. His father is a minister, a Samoan minister. But I tell you what, he just lost his mind the other day on the south side. He got drunk. He hit 5 cars with his vehicle. That's more hits than he had all season. Almost ran over 3 police officers. I thought for sure that he was never going to see Western Pennsylvania again. But the Steelers, soft and cheesy organization anymore, gave him a slap on the wrist. It was a group hug from the off-defensive lineman. They took him all in, so he's only going to miss 2 games without pay, unless with 15 charges, 5 felony charges, 10 misdemeanors, unless he sees some jail time. Other than that, he should be available for both Cleveland Brown football games. So that's what's on my mind. You know, we got a guy this weekend that really lost his mind in the city of Pittsburgh. You're 350-pound Samoan, but you don't think that people know that you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Smokin' Jim, that's why we love your insights there. Thanks again for pointing something out to us. And now we go to Chip Hayner. What's on your mind, Chip?
What's on my mind tonight? Well, in a solemn note, there was a tragic shooting last Saturday morning over at the Obama School. 7 and 9-year-olds playing a pee-wee football game. Some fool decided to start throwing shots. 3 people got shot, and unfortunately, somebody's grandmother passed away this morning of her wounds. And my heartfelt condolences go out to her family. And these young men, they got to learn to put the guns away. The guns aren't the answers to anything; they only create bigger problems. But really, what's on my mind tonight is finally Gary Bettman gets himself in the news by coming up with a proposal for the NHL players. They gave him basically he gave him an ultimatum, and I love the way Gary Bettman negotiates. He puts a gun to your head and he says, accept the offer or I pull the trigger. They offered to split revenues 50-50 with the players, but I know there's more things to go on with this than they're letting out to the press, and who knows if they accept this proposal or not. But the way that he played his hand is that it'll look like the players are the bad guys if they don't accept this offer, because it looks like the owners are being generous and moving off of their position. His offer is a joke, just like what he's made of the NHL, and I think they need to get somebody real in there to negotiate and get this sport playing again. That's what's on my mind.
Chip, I love what's on your mind, because we're going to touch on that later on with some of my history here with negotiating. And some guys like Chief and Jimmy Villa and the rest of my friends from the PG, they'll tell you some stories about me with better negotiators than Bettman. And you can look in my eyes right now, folks. There's no blank there. And we'll talk about that later. But I do want to tell you, this is actually our 53rd show. Believe it or not, I'm shocked. And I don't know if you get a picture. Oh, is that Bethel Bakery?
Oh, yeah, Bethel Bakery.
One of the best
Mitt Romney's
bakeries.
favorite.
Well, it's my favorite because it isn't 7-Eleven, and they're a traditional bakery. But Smokin' Jim, I couldn't get any white batter.
Oh,
but I
man.
do have 6 chocolate with yellow batter and some chocolate. So this is my treat to you. And I do want to make a couple comments here. I know Smokin' Jim and I are 2 of the original cast members, and the other one is Mike Migliore. I have to give kudos to him. He got us together, like Mike and I don't agree on probably from A to Z. But yet, we put shows on together, and I'm the producer of the show, and we do another show at Level 20, and we do all these things. We're about community. Mike comes at it from a different way, but he brought all of us together. So here's a shout out, Mike. Thanks for bringing us together.
Michael, thank you for putting me here.
And this guy here, he wasn't on the first show, but he was on the 3rd show, and I kept saying he's the odd guy that keeps coming in. He was on the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and then they said, we got to keep him here. And now he's a superstar, and I'm going to be his PR guy as we go down this career, because now he's wearing a collar here, and he's dressing up a little better. He keeps his hair short. So there's certain things. And Smokin' Jim, what can you say about his style and how he dresses there? There's class personified for the NFL scout. And Heather, woo! All I can say is somebody said something to me about eye candy, and I didn't understand that phrase until you walked on our show, and you're welcome back anytime. So thank you. And enjoy the cupcakes.
Well, I tell you what, I'm in Bethel Park, so I got a white on white cupcake. Can I have some white napkins?
Let me give you 2. 2, as Andy Sebastian would say. Here's 2. We're in round 2. There's another guy that Mike introduced us, and Smokin' Jim can tell you, and even Heather with some of the fights. What a class act. We'll have to have Andy. If he ever listens to this again, show number 2 is all yours. We'll bring you back. Pass this white napkin down to Heather, please. And I'm going to pause. No, I'm not going to pause.
No.
Because what's on my mind is Geno Smith. West Virginia, I've been a fan of them because of my son in West Virginia. I really wasn't a fan of theirs till he started telling me, Dad, they actually have some great players, and then Pitt would suck. And I go, yeah, you're right. It's interesting. Then he liked to go to the, brawl. And we'd go to the brawl down in West Virginia. We'd go up here. And I was down there one time, and my hot chocolate, oh, sorry, Smokin' Jim. It froze. Can you believe hot chocolate would freeze in West Virginia? It actually froze at halftime.
Did you warm it up over one of those burning sofas?
Well, that was one of the times they lost. They lost down there, so they did not commit any felonies that day, folks. But what's on my mind is here you have a team that looks like they're going to go undefeated, and they heard Chip Hayner, the prophet, talk about Texas Tech, and they pulled the game plan that Chip talked about, and bam, they lost. And they look bad doing it.
They've looked bad in every game they've played because they don't know how to play defense.
What's that?
What's defense? Defense is giving up 50 points a game. So you have to tackle people if you want to stop the other team from scoring. But that's just a little, I mean, I shouldn't have to tell a football coach this.
That's a little insight that you have from watching the games?
Well, here's some more insight is my best friend was the defensive coordinator there for the last decade, Jeff Castile.
Oh, okay.
Jeff Castile left this year to go take the defensive coordinator position with Arizona and Rich Rodriguez. And he's presently, thanks to me, recruiting my nephew out of South Carolina, who's only a sophomore. We start early, so.
Just like Gateway. Just like Gateway.
Yeah, so it looks like my nephew has narrowed his choices down to TCU, Arizona.
Where's his parents going to live at?
In Clemson right now.
On campus?
Well, his dad is very wealthy. They live in a $750,000 house down there in South Carolina, and they did something that I didn't even know. They have what they have. It's called mother-in-law apartment off the house. I forget what it's called, but it's fully furnished. I went in there one time to see the mother-in-law. Did you? Yeah, beautiful house down there in South Carolina. Couldn't get my nephew to come up here and play for Gateway, but I did get.
What was the final offer before he refused?
Well, he's only a sophomore right now.
Right, but what kind of offer?
So yeah, it's steep. He'd have the address. He could live with me, but what I did was at least got my cousin to go play from Florida to go play quarterback as a starting quarterback this year as a junior at Johnstown.
Well, now you're a good uncle.
Yeah. So
just checking.
He wanted to come to Gateway, but they already had Thomas Woodson, and Thomas Woodson, who is coincidentally being recruited by Arizona, where my best friend is the defensive coordinator. He's going there on a full scholarship.
And who's he related to?
But Tom, I'm not sure who he's related to, but
because you know all these things normally.
But being that he's a senior this year and my cousin is a junior at Johnstown, I got a feeling that my cousin may be the starting quarterback next year at Gateway. I got a feeling he's homesick for Monroeville. He's been there twice in his life. He's homesick.
He's already a resident. He's been there twice. The first time he established residency.
Hold it. Let me give him a tip, though. If he's going to live with Smoking Jim Frazier, he might have to hire a nutritionist and a chef. Because I heard some inside info.
Well, I don't eat.
You don't cook.
But I buy fresh food every day, so he get a hot meal every day. There's no problem.
Okay.
And so
you'll take care of him.
So I'm a single man, so I don't want him to bring in any women in the house. Not one, at least.
We won't go there. It's a family show on public access TV. We'll talk about that stuff later on.
But everybody always talks about. They're like, Smoking Jim. Why aren't you married? And I always say because a dog is man's best friend. And they say, no, the woman is the man. A wife is a man's best friend. And I always say, well, why don't you do me a favor? Lock your dog and your wife in the trunk of your car and come back and see which one's happy to see you. But the reason that the reason that I haven't gotten married yet is because I've been waiting on Miss Heather all my life. So that's what's up.
Dovetail that one out.
Smoking Jim. We got to start covering some sports here.
Start covering some sports.
How about some baseball here? What do you think of the Yankees and Big Mike? Sorry, Big Mike. I don't know.
Big Mike Butera, forgive me. I'm going to do my mea culpa now. You can forgive me, but I think the Yankees ship has sailed.
had some Italian last night we didn't understand.
Yeah, none of it.
The Yankees, I think, are destined for a 4-game sweep here. They're playing. They're playing the Tigers tonight. Justin Verlander, best pitcher in baseball right now. I think he's going to take them to task. But when Derek Jeter went down with a broken ankle, at the heart and the soul of the Yankees limped off the field with him. You've got an embarrassment at third base named Alex Rodriguez, who is not only the most overrated player in baseball, he's also the most overpaid player in baseball. And if he put as much effort into trying to perfect his craft as he did picking up women behind the dugout, I think the Yankees might actually have a chance. He is
Hold it, wait, before you go on, what's this picking up women here? You have some inside knowledge like Smoking Jim here. I missed this on ESPN.
One of the things I admired about Joe Girardi was that Alex Rodriguez was doing just absolutely atrociously at the plate, and has struck out more times than anybody I've seen in recent memory that wasn't in a Pirate uniform.
I'm glad the Pirate season's over. You would have never
you know what?
that.
I can take my shots at him.
Mike Vint during the season, he would never.
Yeah, I can take my shots at him, but so Joe Girardi sat down in Game 5 of the first round of the playoffs. He sits down A-Rod, puts in Raul Ibanez, who not only does something that's never been done in the history of baseball. He hits a game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th. And then I believe it was in the bottom of the 11th, he hit a game-winning walk-off home run. Kudos to Joe Girardi for sitting down A-Rod and putting in somebody that can actually put the bat on the ball. So the next game that A-Rod was, the Yankees played, he benched A-Rod. So A-Rod's sitting in the dugout, and he's tossing baseballs to pretty young ladies back behind the dugout, and written on the baseballs was, leave your phone number and toss it back to me, because he doesn't have anything to do, like maybe working on his hitting technique, or possibly even rooting on his teammates, because this is a team game. And when he was interviewed about being benched by Girardi, he said, I'm all about the team now at this point in my career. His team begins with M and ends with E.
Who gave you that tip a few weeks ago?
I think the Yankees would be better served to just get rid of him. But the problem that they have is that $30 million anchor that's hanging around his neck that the Yankees are going to have to bear. No other team in baseball will take him, because nobody's going to pay that kind of salary to him. But being that the Yankees have no heart and soul anymore, the only thing that they've got going for them is tomorrow night they'll have CC Sabathia pitching for him, and he is a stud pitcher, and he shut down the Orioles in Game 5. Did a masterful job, pitched 9 innings, which is something that's basically unheard of in baseball these days. But you got the Tigers and the Yankees going at it. The Tigers are up 2-0. Verlander's pitching tonight. You've got the Giants and the Cardinals playing. And they Giants tied up the series last night 1-1. I think that series is going to go 7 games, and you can flip a coin, because I think those teams are very evenly matched.
I agree.
The thing I like about the Cardinals is they've probably got one of the best hitting lineups in baseball. I remember when they came into Pittsburgh earlier this year, I think 7 of the 9 guys they put in a batting order were batting 300.
Wow.
And one of the 2 that wasn't batting 300 was the pitcher, who usually bats about his weight. But
less.
But the Cardinals are defending champions. They got rid of Alex Pujols, but they backed that up by bringing in Carlos Beltran, who's been a very, very hot commodity for them, who also was on the Giants roster last year. So he's getting to pay them back a little bit. But there's some great baseball being played right now. So people should turn their TVs on. Ratings are falling on baseball, and I don't understand why, because if you're a baseball lover, they're seeing some of the best baseball played all year right now.
Well, it's just not promoted the right way. You know that, and that segues into the baseball contract, and you were talking about A-Rod. And over the years, I've said that once you get up near 500, you need 1 or 2 players that are proven hitters, pitchers, etc. Well, we're at that point. And what's a name that we all know right now? A.J. Burnett. His contract was subsidized. So here's my little theory. $30 million. They eat $25 million. We're getting an extra $20 million in baseball TV revenue. They bring them here, and
No. Yeah.
you don't think that can happen?
I think he's a.
That's a little. This is
I
the
think
winter
he's
talk.
poison, and I think a bag of jock straps would be more valuable than Alex Rodriguez would, to be honest with you.
Well,
Well, I got to tell you my Alex Rodriguez story when I wiped this icing off.
hold it. Wait, chew first. I'll just talk a little bit like I do, and then you can get ready to give us some insight.
But when they had the All-Star game here in Pittsburgh, I was one of the escorts for the professional ball players, and I got to escort Alex Rodriguez from High Tops. Remember where High Tops was?
Yep.
They laid out the red carpet, and they had the fans on either side in the limo. So I walked. I was surprised how tall he was, one. And two, I was disappointed he didn't have Madonna with him.
Sure.
But it was a good conversation. Of course, that was before everybody knew he was on steroids. Getting him in Dominican Republic. But yeah, I got the chance to escort Alex Rodriguez from the High Tops in the PNC Park.
And what did you two talk about?
We
If
were
you
talking,
don't mind, if you're allowed.
Well, we were talking about where was Madonna,
Okay.
and can he get me Holly Berry's number?
No.
But,
How'd that work out for you? How'd that work out?
Did he hand you a baseball with their number on it?
Yeah, and it had Babe Ruth on it. That's how he lucked out. It said Babe Ruth. And he thought that was a stripper up at the blush there. Baby Ruth. Leave it to you, Smoking Jim. We'll have to get away from him, Matt. Matt's doing a hell of a job on the camera because we go back and forth here. And not that he's a rookie. He told me he's experienced on the camera. You definitely get a cupcake. We have a few left if I can keep them away from Smoking Jim and myself. And Chip, he's all about chocolate. So you'll be okay, just so you know. These are cupcakes we're talking about. And Devin in the control room, he gets one, and Joe's one of the best guys we have here. There's cupcakes for you. Notice how I gave a pause, and now Smoking Jim's not even eating his cupcake. This isn't even right. But what I wanted to talk about, we'll go to this contract negotiation. Another negotiating ploy by experts and lawyers. You had the owners going down to 47%. You had the players at 57%. Now, you guys are probably smarter than me and can do the math. But when you go to 50, I don't know, is that halfway or did they miss it a little bit? Because when you have an odd number, it's hard to split it. And then they're talking about revenue. Now, I've been in negotiations, and it's all about horse trading. And these players, when they get a deadline like this, they have to preserve their income and their percentage because it's not a real union, folks. That's part of it. So when guys get upset about unions in sports, if it was truly a union, you wouldn't have the top players worried about their percentage of the revenue, which their contracts are based on. How could that even happen? So that adds something in the mix that I look at. It's more sophisticated than what we hear in the media. So they put something out there, and to me, when they put an offer that's supposedly a final offer, I count to three more offers. And then I think you can work a deal like the NBA. Just like today, I heard one of the most idiotic statements out of what Bettman said. No offense to you on his proposal, but I heard some of it and I looked into it. He wants to start the season November 2nd with 82 games. Mm-hmm. Now, to fit that in, you're going to run out of days off, and I even heard you might have to have double headers in hockey.
No, they were talking about maybe instead of 3 games a week, they play 5 games a week.
Right.
It's going to be like baseball.
But some of it is travel time. They run into the logistics of it, too. So, I mean, this is, again, part of what they negotiate in the media, just like you hear companies and unions and everything else.
He did
and you
that.
know that.
He wants the 82 games so that the owners don't have to give back to season ticket holders the money that they've already got that they're earning interest off of.
But think about what he's doing to the people out here that don't know. The sheeple, they tell them, we lost $100 million. What about all the people that were working?
You know, these guys,
and all the restaurants, the bars, the limos.
All these owners, they're all millionaires or multi-millionaires, billionaires, etc. They didn't get that way by being foolish. And they, believe me, they're not in any business enterprise where they're losing $100 million. They didn't get to be where they are by doing that. So there's no.
Sorry, Chip, here was my point. When you tell me that, then I don't believe Bettman's offer, because you don't split the middle there when they have 57 on the table and you go to 50. You stay at like 46, 47.
Well, you know,
that's how you negotiate. And you're a smart man. You're a businessman also. You know yourself when you're doing contracts with people. You'll cut them a break. How are these owners different, and how are their lawyers presenting it different to us, the public?
Well, you know, I do want to speak to one point that you made, that these aren't real unions. And, you know, a couple of cases in point. You know, you look what happens with the NFL, and they have their collective bargaining agreement. And then after the agreement's done, Roger Goodell starts taking all these privileges with how he's going to discipline players, which they didn't seem to know about, which should have been in the collective bargaining agreement.
No. Here,
wait, let me finish. Let me finish. Then you've got the NBA. Okay. David Stern is taking a book right out of Roger Goodell's book. And what they're going to do is, after the collective bargaining agreement is done, they're going to start fining players for flopping. Okay? They're going to start fining them $10,000 after the second offense. Third offense, $30,000. Now all of a sudden the players are like, wait a minute, where did this come from? We didn't negotiate this. But
he's taking, I got to give you a timeout. Let me go. No, it isn't. When you negotiate a contract, here, do you see this in any negotiation?
Every time.
I haven't seen the gun. And here's what happens. Hey, did you guys read that? Yeah, they read it. They didn't think it mattered because they're above the law. And that's what happens because they're prima donnas. They're making all the millions. That won't affect me. But they don't care about you guys that are making minimum.
Alan, what you seem to forget is that the players are only ratifying what their so-called union lawyers are telling them. So they've got people that supposedly read the fine print.
Here, I'll show you how that
and tell them how it goes. Yeah,
I've been on the
stamp.
Bam. I've been in the inner sanctum there. We've had different things like that. What they'll do is they'll give you a bullet point type of thing. And most of the ones, no offense to the Maroons out there, but they don't read that stuff. And they don't care about it, is what I said.
The devil's in the details.
But the guys that run the show, they know that's in there. And when they cut a deal, they know what deal they're cutting. Just like all these sports superstars, all their people representing them, they know that stuff has to happen, because when you're childish in a sport that's a child's game and your men playing it, guess what? Sooner or later, when you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to have to pay something. And it got too far. It's a pendulum that swings. So now they got caught, and it happens. Did they tell everybody? No. When they did tell people, did they even care about it? No way, because guess what? They got a $100 million contract, Chip. Yeah. That's what happens. These people at the bottom, do you think me and you, we're not like Smoking Jim? He's a superstar. He would sign that prima donna deal, and me and you'd go, hey, I got to work hard just to stay on the team. And then what's this mean if I flop or get accused of it? I'm getting fined. I can't afford the fine. You think you can even complain? Who's representing you? And that's my point on whether a union's a real union or not, because who's their rep? He's one of those $100 million players. Come on now. But enough of that stuff. We're getting too serious.
Do you guys think that was a good...
For
you
what?
think there's some into the hockey holdout?
Well, you know, here's what part of the problem is. And, you know, they want to split revenues 50-50, but they've got a number of players that they've signed $100 million contracts. Now they want to roll back their contracts. So now that the contracts that the players signed, the money that they're legally entitled to, the owners are trying to take that back from them. Now, if you're not going to give that up, if you've got a contract that says you have to pay me this, you're going to pay me.
Right.
But now the owners are trying to. So I think that's going to be the sticking point, because
it's one of them.
You know, because I mean, who's going to give up money that they've been guaranteed?
And you're not talking just pocket. It may be pocket change, $2-3 million on a $100 million contract. But think about it. That's the room to compromise. What did I say earlier? 3 more tries to negotiate this thing, and the deadline's there. I've been involved in deadlines. You know how many have come and gone, and then you're still in business?
So watch, we'll walk out of here at 8 o'clock and find out they settled.
I'll take $1 bet. Hold it. I got the chip for $1. I can't find it.
I gave that $1 to him a month ago, and he hasn't let go of it.
There it is. The chip for $1.
He hasn't let go of it.
But I'm willing to let him get it back with the
Right.
NHL. What do you
Okay.
think, folks?
So now
Call in 412-831-3304.
Now that we've beat that subject to death,
Yes.
let's get back to something that's got some real teeth right now. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? The Steelers got the Cincinnati Bengals coming up here Sunday night. And, looking at the state of the AFC right now, the Steelers are right in the thick of things. And, what is there? There's 8 teams in the AFC that are 3-3. There's 2 that are over 500.
Right, that's it.
And the rest of the teams are 2-3. So I mean, nobody's out of it yet. And and it's to think as badly as the Steelers have played, they win Sunday night, and they're going to be breathing down Baltimore's neck. And Baltimore has just suffered some pretty tragic losses. They lost the heart and soul of their defense in Ray Lewis. He's out for the season. Could be a career-ending injury. But if I'm a good judge of character, I somehow seem to think we're going to see Ray back again next year. This guy, they're going to carry him off the field in the box one of these days because he's going to play until he dies. Darius Webb was a season-ending injury, their number 1 cornerback. Haloti Ngata was banged up, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be out for very long. So, they're going to bring back Terrell Suggs off the PUP list. Okay, well, what kind of player is Terrell Suggs going to be? Is he going to be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year from last year? Achilles tendon injuries have a tendency to take a long time to heal. You don't have any strength. You're not going to be able to lock up with offensive linemen with the kind of leverage that you did last year. It'll be interesting to see what he's capable of doing. So what maybe 2 days ago would have seemed like an impossibility, Steelers actually have a chance to, make a little bit of a run this year. I know Jim's going to lambaste me on this one, so go ahead.
Well, it's a couple things. One in my picks, unfortunately, I'm 7-3. I had San Diego Chargers last night, and San Diego set a record. They were up 24 points, 24-0 at halftime, and it was the biggest collapse in Monday Night Football history. Denver beat them, so I'll give you a bonus pick, Cincinnati over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ouch.
So, you know how I feel about that. And I don't even like Cincinnati, but they'll beat the Steelers Sunday night.
Well, I'm on that Steeler bandwagon. I'm not giving up on them. And injuries come back, like you're talking about Suggs. I think Suggs is a great home field player. When you get him on the road, I don't think he's neutered somehow. It's happened sometimes. He doesn't play with the same intensity for whatever reason. We've seen it over the years. Because look, we were trading one game in Baltimore. They beat us, then we'd beat them here and switch off. So they're going to have some trouble there. And Flacco, he's not for real. He might be the greatest quarterback in his mind, but we don't see that all the time. Now, Cincinnati is a little bit of a surprise team to me because they usually do that bungle type thing. It happens to them for some reason. Things start popping up out of the field. Players are falling down, injuries. Quarterbacks are throwing interceptions. But Dalton actually looks like the real deal. He looks like a great quarterback in the making there. So
I don't know about great, but I mean, Dalton, I think, can be a serviceable enough quarterback. I think he'll not lose more games for you than he'll lose. But
if that happens in Cincinnati, that's great.
Yeah, that'll get a statue outside of Paul Brown Stadium. But
for more than a couple years. So.
But another interesting thing happened today is that the gentleman who was a minority owner of the Steelers took over majority ownership of the Cleveland Browns. He fired Mike Holmgren. So once again,
not until the end of the season.
Once again, the Cleveland Browns are blowing up the management team after 2 years, which is just going to guarantee mediocrity there forever. They're never going to have a winning team, and they're never going to have a winning season because they have no continuity there. They keep on, okay, we're going back to square one. Also, the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia lost his job today, and he lost his job because in the last year he has lost 7 fourth quarter leads and lost games. Now, you think about a certain team that plays down here at Heinz Field, and think about how many fourth quarter leads that they've blown this year. Are we halfway on our way to getting Dick LeBeau fired?
Hold on a second, right there. All you can do is put the horses out there to play. The scheme's the same. I even heard it on, I don't remember, some fan thing. A guy named Ryan Clark's talking about it. He goes, the players aren't playing like they should. The scheme is still there.
Well,
we just don't have the players in the right
horses.
position. Just like they changed Timmons a little bit, because all of us on the panel here, I don't know about Heather, whether she noticed that he disappears during a game, but now he's appeared this year. And I know she's a big Steeler fan. We got to bring Heather in here a little bit, because she's a disgruntled Steeler fan from what I heard there.
I am disgruntled. I think Ben should get himself together so everyone else will fall into place.
Wow, there's a profound statement. Nice.
Well, one of the things that disturbs me about the Steelers this year, I mean, there's a number of them, but one of the things was back when we played Philadelphia, we heard the Young Money crew and the wide receiver core badmouthing Philadelphia's cornerbacks. And, boy, they really sat on the egg that day because, the Steelers wide receivers really did not perform well. And I think, before they start running their mouths, they ought to perfect their trade and play like all pros instead of talking like all pros because, all the talk in the world isn't going to win any football games. The Steelers do. If they, could get their act together, they do have an outstanding receiving core. Antonio Brown, I think he's a top 5 receiver in the league. And Mike Wallace, if he ever gets his head screwed on straight, I mean, he's shown what he can do, but, he needs to go out there and prove to people that he's worth the kind of contract that he was asking for because he's on a 1-year tender right now. And the way he's been playing this year, how many $8 and $10 million offers do you think he's going to get from anybody?
Well, when you get alligator arms like that, and then you can't catch a wet ball when other guys are catching it and running up and down the field, it's hard to do it. But things have changed just in the NFL. Look, you had Steelers before. They did have a tradition, even though they had some thugs. And like Smoking Jim alluded to, you had a guy shooting at helicopters in the off season. That's sort of different. And he did that and helped them get their Super Bowls too. But he was also mentally ill. This young man is not mentally ill. He just has some emotional problems. Because if you remember Fats Holmes, he always was paranoid, thinking people were watching him, and he heard voices. Yep. So, I mean, he had some severe problems, and he come from a broken home.
And to help him find the way to the quarterback, they shaved an arrow on his head, and he was pointing straight forward.
And the most odd thing about that is when you're wearing a helmet, I don't know about you guys, I played, you really can't see what's under your helmet there. So that's sort of odd that guided him. But, hey, if it worked for him, those voices guided him too.
Well, we can, everybody wants to get rid of Dick LeBeau, and I do hope Dick LeBeau, if that's what he wants to do, steps down this year because it's going to be a number of years for the rebuilding process. But the guy that's the heir apparent is Keith Butler. And Keith Butler couldn't lead silent prayer. Keith Butler did not take the defensive coordinator job at Indianapolis because he would have got exposed. Everybody talk about Dick LeBeau's defense. What are the linebackers doing? That's Butler's linebackers, and for the first time in a long time, he hasn't had that veteran leadership in there at the linebacker position, and the linebackers hasn't been playing well. They've been playing out of position all season long. I think Keith Butler is not a guy that can make quick decisions, but that's the heir apparent to Dick LeBeau. The whole thing is everybody looks at the Pittsburgh Steelers and see that black and gold uniform, but they don't realize this is not the same. This is not your mother and father's Pittsburgh Steelers. Offensive line, just take a look at the offensive line going into this week. If Ben Roethlisberger was not the quarterback, if Bobby Brister quarterbacked this team, he'd be taking those 20-yard sacks. Right now, you got Marcus Gilbert that's faking another injury. I don't even know. He just fell down during the game.
I saw that.
Every time he gets beat up, he fakes an injury and out for a game. Now you're putting in the 330-pound, dope-smoking guinea pig from Ohio State, Mike Adams, who is the human turnstile. You got Willie Colon still there. You got Legursky in that center, an undersized guy. This offensive line is a patchwork offensive line, and that's what the problem with the entire team. Right now, you just defensively, there's holes in the defense. The last 4 or 5 drafts have been horrible. I rated it a D. And like I've said long ago, I've said it consistently. The last 2 years, I said the Steelers would go 12-4. They went 12-4. This year, I said they'd be lucky to go 8-8. They will be lucky to go 8-8. I see it consistently. When Bill Cowher players begin to retire, you're going to start seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers turning into the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's what's happening right before your eyes.
Well, and another thing is a lot of the recent draft picks, you got no production out of the defensive line. You got Cameron Hayward, a #1 draft pick. He can't.
Well, not before
he
you
can't
go
even make it on the field.
I'll let you go. Did you see the guy that's built like Tarzan, plays like Ziggy Hood flop the other day ago? Did you see that game? The guy he's flopping all over there trying to get a call. Why don't you rush the quarterback?
He hasn't made a play since 2010. I mean, they haven't the defensive line has underperformed. Aaron Smith was probably one of the better defensive ends in football, and he was so valuable to the Steelers that now we're seeing about what happens when he's gone. Brett Kiesel is he's decent enough and he can fulfill the position, but he needs help around him and he can't do it all himself. And then you've got Big Snack in there in the center, and he's always going to take up a couple of guys, but just that's just his size is going to do that.
Yeah, but they're getting around him.
We've got a linebacking core. We've got absolutely no depth. Everybody's getting hurt, and then you've got Harrison hurt. You've got Woodley hurt. Now Woodley may play this week. How many series is he going to play this week before that hamstring pops on him again? This is an injury that was a continuing problem for him last year, and so what are you going to do? Troy's out. I mean, the people that the Steelers are missing are the people that they needed to count on this year to give them any kind of a chance to go 8-8. They don't have any depth, and the young draftees they're just not getting it done.
Well, and then Mendenhall has an Achilles problem, a strain, but he's back tweeting again, getting on the fans. I tell you what, there's a lack of institutional control with that organization that wouldn't have happened if Bill Cowher was still here.
I don't know about that.
In defense, Cowher was not the disciplinarian. I mean, not by any means. I mean, players basically, he didn't fine anybody for anything. It's just blowing up.
What are you talking about?
It's just blowing up. Hey, I'm not bad mouthing Bill Cowher. Okay. I mean, Bill Cowher. I agree with Jim. The chin should be in the Hall of Fame. I absolutely agree, and I'm quoting the words of my my illustrious colleague here to my left. But but Cowher was not the disciplinarian. I mean, look at some of the things like Joey Porter did. I heard somebody talking about Joey Porter. The one year was in 2003 when he wanted to take on the whole bus full of Baltimore Ravens after he got shot in the hind end. I loved it. He was trying to call out Ray Lewis. He was going to take on the whole team and the bus driver.
Luckily, nobody's on steroids, so you don't have that rage anymore. So I appreciate that. But one thing that I did notice, I don't know if the chin should be in, my esteemed co-host here. I disagree there because I'll keep saying it, and a lot of people think it. He played not to lose, and that's not always the best way. He did win a lot of games, but he had a lot of great players. And another thing that was brought up, Smokin' Jim brought it, so I'll give him the kudos for it. How many of his coaches become head coaches and moved on? That's where he was great, because most people, when they know that they can't handle all this stuff, like me, I got experts here right with me. So that's what helps me look a lot better, because I don't have to know anything. That's out to Mike Migliore right there. He keeps saying it. I believe it. So I'm a fan of that. But that's part of what happens. And now I noticed Cowher was a player's coach. And when I always hear a player's coach, I figure he's a friend and a buddy. And that gets you in some predicaments that you don't need to be. Now I'm watching the highlights and I'm watching the game, and I told these guys last night, by the way, thanks Level 20, we appreciate it. Pittsburgh Sportsline visits there next week again, and here's what happens. He's hugging Big Ben, which it seems so awkward to me because I come from Hugathon, Pittsburgh, but a manly hug, when you're holding a guy like this here, I'm not going to do it to Chip, but he has Big Ben here with his arm out to him like that. then he's grabbing some other guys. And now we've all played sports, and your coach gets a little excited. He slaps you on the back end. And when you're wearing pads, that's okay. But I don't see any pads in the back with these guys. Matter of fact, you can see through all of their equipment. So, I mean, and Heather knows that. That's why she likes some of these players here. So, but I mean, that's part of the problem. When you're a player's coach and you're not a disciplinarian, when you have tough times, it gets worse. And I'm still on the bandwagon, although I've had to revise my 11-5. I'm looking like 9-7 here. Because now we're going to get a break maybe with Baltimore. But who knows? We give up these games. We have to try to win a game next week, coming up, or this week coming up. I don't know if we can do it. I'm hopeful.
Well, we got one against Phillip Rivers, and he threw 4 interceptions last night.
But which one will we get? We played Tennessee. Do I have to bring up Tennessee? They were the worst team in the league at the time. They couldn't even score. And what happened to them? We're in a dogfight, and they couldn't manage the clock. And
we got Cleveland twice without home, bro.
Well, that's why I said 9-7. I'm not 8-8 like you guys. So.
But I tell you what, before we get too far away, we should bring Miss Heather into the picture and at least let everybody know in Bethel Park and South Park and the south part of to southwestern Pennsylvania what you got going on and who you're about.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I got a lot of good things going on. First, I want to say I would love to eat this cupcake, but I need a fork and a knife.
I want to eat the cupcake too.
Sorry, Heather.
I need a fork and a knife. That's
you know what? I might have one in the car. So. I carry that stuff around because I'm a hardcore eater. You never know. I'm like Smoking Jim here. So.
Okay. Well, I'll wait
and it's
for
plastic.
that.
We can take care of you there.
Okay.
On the ride home in Smoking Jim's car, you can start slicing and dicing. I do have a knife and a fork.
Sounds good.
I'll give you 2 white napkins.
Sounds good. Thanks, Al. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on. Since 2008, I've had a personal assistant business, and recently I've added a new business venture, and I'm very excited about it. It's called Diamond Royale Home Services, and for one, we do house cleaning. 2, we do home staging. 3, we do clean-outs. So with the house cleaning, I'm really excited because if we don't just go in and clean the house, we'll go in and we'll organize your closets and we'll do, whatever you need done. And my motto is, we are here to do what we need to do so you can go out and do what you have to do. So I take that to the heart. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to get all my flyers out. I don't want to see them anymore. I want all my business cards out. So that's my...
Well, here's how you do it. You start right now. What's that phone number? If you need somebody to promote you, I'm like the Billy Mays here on infomercials. That's why Smoking Jim brought you down. Heather, what is the phone number? And if you don't mind repeating it, because I'm hard of hearing at this age, at least tell me once, real slow here for the folks.
412-583-4038.
And I couldn't hear that, so
One
you
more
must
time.
repeat it.
412-583-4038. Email address?
Of course.
tate.heather5@gmail.com.
And you don't have a website or anything at this time?
No website, it's just email.
You can get some free websites out there. You can just do it. We'll have to talk off the set there. You can do some things there so you can just have one page. And
I'll think about it. It's
not real hard, some of this stuff. I have some resources for you and people that do that, and they may be able to help you. I can hook you up with a couple different people that, that's building bridges for business. They do a lot of things to help people. And if somebody's starting out with a business and you already have the experience, why not get the help there? And that's part of what we bring here. We do fundraising. We help other people with businesses. And you better give that email out. And I just gave you a little pause so you could try to take a little icing there, but I saw you weren't taking it. So, what's that email, Heather?
Email address is tate.heather HEATHER, the number 5, at gmail.com.
And how far do you travel? Sorry to interrupt, Smoking Jim.
I'm in Penn Hills, and I will go as far as I need to go.
And I tell you what, look for me and Miss Heather to start doing some Golden Glove boxing in February. And as we transition back to Chip and Ale, I'm going to act like Coach Tomlin over here. Y'all go ahead and do your thing.
Whoa, wait a minute. So now move that camera over this way.
So,
Put that icing down.
one thing we haven't touched on at all tonight is the college football scene. This past weekend, the BCS rankings came out for the first time this year. No big surprise, Alabama's number 1, but I find it ironic how the BCS can rank teams higher than the regular polls have everybody else.
Money. Money.
It's good to see Notre Dame back in the top 5 again. Storied University, they're undefeated this year. Good game Thursday night. Oregon's going to be playing one of Pitt's favorite sons, Todd Graham.
That's my man.
And the
That's
Arizona
my man.
State Devils, that'll be on national television.
High Octane is out in the desert.
I think High Octane's going to get lit up on Friday.
We've got a lot of fans here in Pittsburgh saying the same thing.
No
offense, Smoking Jim.
That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping. And Jim was talking about his friend, the defensive coordinator over at Arizona. Arizona started out the year like a house on fire. They were 3-0, but they've dropped their last 3, and they need to turn that around so they can reach that magic number. College football, the magic number is 6. That's all it takes to become bowl eligible.
And a couple athletic directors, they're looking for a new head coach because some of the games, and I heard Todd might be available at the end of the season. You can break a contract anytime you want.
Speaking of athletic directors, you look at the state of Pitt. Pitt football, the program's become a joke. But, I wonder how it is that Steve Peterson keeps his job.
Wow.
He has pictures.
He must have because, look at what's been with the football team for the last 10 years. The only coach that he had that was, worth a doo-doo was Dave Wanstead, and Wanstead wore out his welcome here.
Oh, man,
but, look at the program. The program's a laughingstock. They can't even recruit in their own city.
Yeah.
You look at Penn State, and then Penn State's got every reason in the world to have no wins, and they're playing respectable football. They don't have the what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have the scholarships to offer or anything like that. But you know what? They got pride, and that's taken them a long way. And it doesn't look like Pitt has any pride either, or a defense.
They have some coaching problems with time. Like before the half's over.
The way they played on Saturday against Louisville, there was no pass defense whatsoever. Wow. There was, first play of the second half, one play, 80 yards, touchdown. Nobody touched the guy.
They weren't ready yet. They were watching the band. They were watching the cheerleaders. But think about before the half. Why do you make certain calls and then you're letting them get in field goal range? Wow. Come on now. And then what about the decision where you go for it and you're basically conceding the game? When you're 10 points down, a field goal.
A friend of ours, Magic Mike, said that, he said this about my beloved Pirates, that they have a culture of losing. And I think that the Pitt Panthers are the same thing. When your only goal is to reach 6 wins, you're supposed to shoot for the stars, not shoot for somebody's kneecaps. There's no reason for them to want to. They're leaving the Big East because they think that they can bring a better caliber of football to the ACC. They can't even win a game in the Big East.
Wow.
What do you think is going to happen to them when they get into the ACC? They're going to get steamrolled.
They're
going to get steamrolled in football and in basketball when they go up against the likes of Duke and North Carolina.
Especially on their court, as we all know. No doubt. What about high school, Smoking Jim? What's going on in the high school arena?
Well, we got to always start off with Gateway. Congratulations to Thomas Woodson, the Arizona recruit, set a Gateway record. He passed for 5 touchdown passes. He was 10 of 13 for 300 yards.
Half of his passes went for touchdowns.
And Gateway scored 62 points and on the way to victory. But I got to say congratulations to the Blackhawks, Bethel Park. Bethel Park upset Upper St. Clair, and I tell you what, it was a huge upset with a 9th grade quarterback who just happens to be the coach's son. So we got to follow Bethel Park the next few years. But if you look at the statistics of the game, Bethel Park only had 3 first downs the whole game, and they end up winning. They returned a kickoff for a touchdown, interception for a touchdown, and they threw a touchdown pass. So it was a great upset. But if you look at the numbers, Upper St. Clair dominated the game.
Hold it,
Bethel
Smoking
Park
Jim.
came away with
Who's
the
the
victory.
coach on special teams? Because I think a pro team needs that guy.
Well,
right? We'll have to look into that. I'm not asking you specifics
Sure
yet.
enough, that don't look good. Again, that doesn't look good for Coach Tomlin firing Al Everest, the special teams coach. Block punt led to the demise of the Steelers against Tennessee. Special teams been looking horrible, so that's one that Coach Tomlin got to.
Might have to come out to Bethel Park. Sorry to interrupt you on your high school report, but you just jogged my memory with what they need. The Steelers need a guy like that.
Yeah, they
So what were your thoughts about that play call at the end of the game where, Tomlin tried the 52-yard field goal to win the game and ultimately ended up giving handing the game back to the Titans by missing that field goal?
I thought it was a coach that doesn't have his hand on the pulse of his football team. The guy did not have a 54-yard kick in him. And if you look at it, it was 54 seconds to go. You did not want to give Tennessee the opportunity to beat you with a field goal in great field position. I would have punted it or made better play calling.
Why not run it up the middle?
Yeah.
What if you fell down for 2 yards?
Well,
or even 3.
Well, on 4th down, I'd have punted the football.
Right, but I mean before the field goal attempt.
I mean, they were moving. The Steelers were moving at will, and all of a sudden they just stopped. So, it's a team that is used to being a great powerhouse team. It's used to being the Roman Empire, but the Roman Empire is starting to crumble, and I think the coaches are starting to get desperate as well. And Coach Tomlin, who's a defensive coach in theory, is showing his defense he has no confidence in them. He did that in Oakland. He did it again in Tennessee. You're going to begin to see that defense, who's not very good, start to quit on the coach.
Well, they lose their heart, as you're saying.
The fact that the Steelers have no running game. And this is another point that I've got. Roger Goodell talks about how he's trying to make the game safer for the players, and I would, for one, would like to see the end of Thursday night football. I think you look at what happens. A team on 3 days rest goes and plays on Thursday, and they've got an injury list as long as your arm. And I bet you if you look all the way down, the NFL, and everybody's going to be dealing with the same thing. If you're really interested in player safety, give them enough time to recover from the last game before you make them play the next. I mean, playing the Thanksgiving games on Thursday, once a year. That's nice. It's a novelty. It gives you something to do while you're digesting your turkey. But I think Thursday night football in September and October, I'm just not a fan of it. And I think, it's going to hurt teams in the long run.
Don't say that, Chip. I make money with Lucky Louie on Thursday.
And
cut my income.
And guess what? The CBA's about money. And that's what they signed. They know what's in the deal.
You're a piece of meat.
And that's what happens. And the emperor has spoken. He brought up history. You know what, folks? We had a great show. I want to thank Heather Tate for showing up. We wish her well with her business.
Best of luck.
Smoking Jim Frazier with his fiction and fact from the Smoking Jim Almanac. We had history, folks. And the prophet Chip Hayner here. He always has his insights, and he'll give you every little nuance about the sport, and especially baseball. He throws it out there. I appreciate your insights.
Tigers and the Cardinals in the World Series.
And I'm Al Levine, the talking machine. I appreciate being around good people. And again, thanks to Mike Migliori for bringing us all together. And it's a shame that he quit the show. And here's a cupcake for you, Mike.